Namaskar, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and this welcome to Dev Talks. I am Aadi Achint. I have with me Miss Cleo Paskal. You guys know her, you guys like her, you guys love her, and she's absolutely brilliant when it comes to the Indo-Pacific. So, firstly, welcome to the show. Namaskar.
Thank you. I'm not sure everybody loves me, but
Oh
I'll
yeah,
take it all.
no,
Thanks.
that's fine. That's fine. Uh, you can't have everybody like you. That's fine.
Well,
Uh,
you're doing something wrong if that's your end goal anyway.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but thank you.
So, US China, huh? Is it now best friends, BFF for life? What's up?
I was
Trump is
like,
saying, God bless China. I'm like,
I was
nice.
like, I was like, we'll have a nice chat with Addie, and then the Hegseth tweet comes out, and I'm like, aw, all those other things we were going to talk about now, meh. Yeah, I don't. What do I don't know. I mean, what we were saying before is, I don't really know what this means. I tend to ignore words and then wait to see what happens with actions. And there's a lot of momentum. I was in Hawaii not that long ago for an operational energy and logistics meeting
Hmm.
because there's definitely a realization that Pacific's kind of big. So it's like an 8-hour flight, from Hawaii to Guam, 8 hours
Hmm.
and a flight. So imagine if you're on a ship trying to get across, you're trying to get fuel across, you're trying to get munitions across. And it used to be that that whole center region that we've talked about so often was kind of solidly was hostiles free, put it that way. But with the Chinese embedding themselves in the Federated States of Micronesia and places like that, and all sorts of other capabilities, and the fishing fleet all over the place, and the maritime militia, all that, it's maybe a little bit more complicated and contested than it seems. So I don't. I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking at diplomacy by tweets. I'm going to see whether they're trying to continue to try to solve some of those operational problems that they have. They desperately need um, hospital capacity expanded in places like Guam or CNMI. They need munitions manufacturing, maybe innovation hub type stuff. That all needs to be deployed to the western border of the United States, which is Guam and CNMI, 4 hours away from Japan and Seoul and Taiwan. So that's what I'm looking at. It's what do I know? What do I know?
What does anybody know? But it's what is it that you kind of look at the latest interaction between America and China? Do you see this as a ceasefire? Do you see this as a truce? Do you see this as a temporary arrangement? Do you see this as a positive, wonderful way forward for global peace? I it's not coming out. Those
No,
words,
yeah,
that
I
was
know.
difficult.
It's like an allergic reaction to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way that I've been thinking of it and describing it is it's like uh it's like the two fighters in a ring. Okay. And the US has been very, very much used to being like a Marquis of Queensbury rules boxer. And China is in the ring like a mixed martial artist. And not only that, but it's brought its vicious fighting dog into the ring with it, which is Chinese organized crime. So they're in two fighters are in the ring and they're taking a look at each other, and they've had a round or two and they've gone at it, and now they've gone back to their corners, in between rounds, and they're, taking swigs out of their water bottles and reassessing what just happened and where their own vulnerabilities are and where the strengths of the others are, and possibly reassessing how they're going to fight the next round. That's in the most optimistic way. I think that's kind of what happened. They got,
Mhm.
it's interesting about the latest negotiation because the things that the U.S. won on, soybeans and rare earths, were two things that were manufactured by the Chinese not long before the negotiations. So they basically went back to the US got a win by going back to the situation as it was, a few months before.
That's
Uh,
what we see on the other side as well, because the US is basically giving it chips that it was giving before.
yeah, and it's not talking about the Blackwell chips, and Taiwan wasn't brought up. And so, I think that's sort of that's the way I see it. Boxers might shake hands at the beginning of the match. That doesn't mean they're friends, and that doesn't mean they're not going to fight. So that's in my head, that's the analogy that at this state, this situation makes the most sense.
When you look at this whole politic of the region of the place, one thing that comes out is that US is over engaged in a lot of places. It needs to disengage before it engages anybody else. It's been trying to throw itself off of Ukraine, which is not happening. And now I believe the plan is to let them fight. Okay, could
I
have
don't
just done that before. I mean, it has to have a military solution. Such a
so
long fight will have, at the end of it, will have a military solution. I mean, you can't just force people to stop. It's not going to happen. Uh, so, what is it that do you see? Because the peace in the Middle East forever and ever and ever has been achieved, in quotes. Um, there's a certain amount of disengagement of the US unless Israel does something with Iran, which is probable. I'm sorry, I'm just stretching it out because I just want to see an overall picture before we kind of get into specifics. Um, you see that, and so US is still kind of focused on that, and then they open another front in Venezuela. Fantastic. Uh,
Nigeria.
yeah, I'll talk to you about Africa because that comes under the rare earth and that entire thing.
Oh, this is the Christians. This is the defense of the Christians.
That's
Oh, they're talking about pot I mean, the last tweet from President Trump implied, "If you don't do something about it, we're gonna do something about it."
that's to me, it's an excuse again of a region where there's a lot of oil. We'll come to that, but I want to talk to you about the engagement of the US first.
Mhm.
Taiwan, there was a rumor, and of course, I was watching you. You come on Steve Bannon quite often. I was watching him with a Chinese s- analyst or whatever he was. He said that Trump agreed not to do anything about Taiwan to, as an agreement for the meeting. So is it that US has basically acquiesced a certain amount of things for the moment, if I may, just to showcase this meeting? Because that's what he wanted, right? He wanted one with Xi, he wanted one with Putin, he wanted one with Modi, which is not happening. Um, three, four big players in the world, he wants to kind of hash it out with them. What do you think is the engagement pattern here? I mean, I'm not able to put my finger onto it.
I don't know, but that definitely wasn't the one with she was not a lovey-dovey meet there weren't pictures of it all over the place, there was no
Joint presser,
posing of the 2 of them at the
no
end, it was
statement.
yeah. So it wasn't you get the usual thing on the airplane back, it was a terrific meeting and all that stuff, but that's Trump, right? That's a New York, you know, developer way of talking, that's normal. Um, so I don't and there was no real big change that came out of it, and I really I mean, seeing some of the people around him, I would very I would doubt that there was a selling out of Taiwan in order to get that meeting. It's just
They're hawks,
that
yeah.
sorry?
They're China hawks, a lot of them.
Yeah, a lot of them. I mean, there's the so this is why a lot of people are waiting to see what happens with the national defense strategy, because the
Mhm.
question is specifically, about what that's gonna say. Um, and what it says about Taiwan. And you have you it's Steve Bannon is a very smart man, and he also has a complex geopolitical understanding that has broadened out what one would expect what if you're just reading kind of liberal media about what MAGA thinks. They're isolationists and this or that. Bannon's not isolationist, and he's about the homeland and hemispheric defense. But he did an interview with somebody who he called the Taiwan ambassador to the United States. He officially gave him the title, and talked about how Taiwan was central to U.S. national security. So and you saw the relationship with Japan, and
Hmm.
Korea is a disaster, obviously, but the relationship with Japan is pretty good, and seems to be serious about trying to fix some of the problems with their military. And of course, the India-Japan relationship is very good as well. So, I think there are all these other things that are happening, uh, and the Japanese know if Taiwan falls, they have a very serious problem, as do the Filipinos, which is also why, and you're seeing a lot of US activity in the Philippines,
Yeah.
and a lot of Japanese activity in the Philippines. So when you look again, what I the only thing I can do is look at what's actually happening on the ground. Where are things moving? Where are things getting built? Where are the logistics chains being built up? Where's the capability being put? Where's the money and the people and that stuff? And I don't see in that context a backing away from Taiwan. Now,
Hmm.
that's a political decision that can be made on the spur of the moment. But so far, I don't see a throttling of that. But we'll again. I'm I'll be interested to see what happens with the national defense strategy.
The whole G2 thing. It's G2 was a elder brother and a younger brother as a
Mhm,
concept. It was never a G2 of equals. It was number one and number two.
mhm,
That was this thing. And Trump insisting on that again and again and again, which has not been acknowledged by the Chinese,
mhm,
because the Chinese don't want to be number two.
mhm.
Uh, it's really interesting messaging to Russia, India, and the other multipolar powers in the world.
Yeah.
They're multiple power centers today. What is he trying to do by this? Is it messaging to all the above, or is it messaging to Russia and India? Is it messaging to
No,
um,
it's usually
China?
there's so in the within the Indo-Pacific, you know, in Asia, there's a very sophisticated form of diplomacy where you'll talk to one person to send a message to somebody else. That's
Yeah,
that's
that's how it
not
works.
typically American. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So for example, there were a lot of questions when sometimes the spokesman was using the term Asia Pacific instead of Indo Pacific. I wouldn't expect her to have that level of, that's not her area. Understanding that how that signaling might get understood in India,
How they become spokesperson then is besides me, but in any
but
case.
it's because they're fighting. So there is the the battle within the U.S. Politically is extreme.
Yeah.
We're looking at Mandami possibly being elected. I don't know when this is going to go out, but the election is on Tuesday, and there's two governor elections, big ones in New Jersey and in Virginia, and the governors have a lot of control over the way elections are run, like presidential elections and state and senate and congressional elections are run within their states. So the and there's still a lot of problems with the electoral system. It's not, there's not one electoral system. There's
Yeah,
like
multiple.
50. Every state runs its election differently, and they're currently in the process of trying to redraw. I mean, do you know how the constituencies are made up?
Yeah.
With the census, the issue with the census, and then apportionment, and then the redistricting. All of that is what people are talking about now. They're not talking about Asia Pacific or Indo Pacific.
It's
They're talking.
polarized. The US system is extremely polarized at the moment.
Well, it, so it's
And it's reflecting around the world, if I may. Sorry.
So it's
But
not it's not just polarized left and right. Both the right and the left also have very
yeah,
differing factions
extremes.
within them. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not just polarizing, it's splintering. And the splintering seems to be being fed by, at least in part, outside actors, including China and possibly elements from the Middle East. So it's so the Indo-Pacific or Asia Pacific is peaceful enough for a lot of people not to have to think about those differentiations.
Yeah,
You know,
of course.
what they're worried about, and remember we talked last time about how India just isn't on the map in terms of think tanks and all that stuff? And then who got arrested for spying for China?
See, that's the whole thing. Everybody says India is not on the maps, but the maximum amount of activity about sanctions, we are the most sanctioned country right now, apart from Russia and Iran.
It's the people that have a financial incentive to talk about India are people who wanna break the India-US relationship or,
You
how
see the change in this gentleman. Ashley, tell us how it went from being, um, I won't say pro India, but fair enough, India US, pro India US, to a point of actually saying India's got superpower delusions, which was like, okay, we don't have any delusions of being any superpower. We just want to be on our place and our power. You know, India,
Yeah,
we don't want to bloody, conquer the world in this. That's not our intention. We
yeah.
have our own space. We want to do our own thing. Now, if that's what somebody interprets as being a superpower, fair enough. That's up to them. But that's the point, that now, okay, let me switch this in a different way. China gets away with a lot of things right now because he pressed a certain nerve of the rare earths, right? India is not pressing the nerve of pharma and IT and all that stuff and just doing what it's wanting to do. But the focus, as far as the relationship of the Indo-Pacific goes, it starts here and ends there. Any conversation about the Indo-Pacific cannot happen without India or China. So I'm not sure what these guys are trying to do.
They're just I mean,
You know,
there I know there really is just it there's so much noise and there's
yeah,
so many things happening.
that's
And, and there's and the, who's the and State Department says, "Oh, we got a problem with India. Who do we call? Oh, call Telus. He knows everything. He's been around forever." It was like calling Kissinger about China, right? So and who else? And India invited him to conferences, and so so
yeah.
and he would undoubtedly say, the Trump people are crazy. You can't trust them. They're all whatever, whatever. So, and who else in the think tank world is there? I mean, yeah, I'm at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies doing Pacific Islands. I'm not no, I'm not doing India. I care. I mean, that's my a big part,
Personal
my
thing.
yeah, it's something that's very important to me. I have a lot of friends, and it's something that I learn from a lot because your strategists are so darn good. So I'm interact as much as I can, but people aren't knocking on my door saying, "Please write something about India." Yeah. Solomon Islands, yes. So so
That's good.
go
You
go
know,
figure, you know?
it's good to be off the menu sometimes, but
Yeah, but
damn it,
yeah,
you can't get off it.
but what would be great is if they were I mean, I'm like we talked about last time, I'm about as knowledgeable as, like a 12-year-old Indian who's interested in politics. So I'm not the right person anyway. I think, but there should be Indian strategists or specialists who are involved in these discussions. Who
Ashley, tell us. Please call him.
That's what they did. That's what happened, right? So
I used to counter that guy so much. I used to be called out by so many people. Oh, what do you know? You're not educated in this and that. I'm like, fair enough. I don't like what he's saying, and there you go.
yeah.
You know,
But look at the I mean, forget understanding India. Look at the Indian experts you have on China. You have I mean, your China experts are some of the best. And, be helpful to have them part of the discussion, but there's just no anyway, the point is
bandwidth is not there. There's
the
no bandwidth for it.
if they the I don't know if you just saw, for example, the head of the president of the Heritage Foundation just put out a statement defending Tucker Carlson for having on, a guest who has said some pretty anti-Semitic and horrible things. And
What's his name? Nick Fluentes.
Nick Fuentes, yeah. And
He's
during the
quite a creep, that guy.
yeah, I mean, and in the interview with Tucker, he said he talked about how he admired Stalin,
Yeah, I
and
heard that. I
yeah,
heard that. I mean,
and
ridiculous.
anyway, and so the whole Twitter sphere is now not the whole thing, but now the discussion is what's going on at Heritage, and well, did he write his own speech, and should he get are there going to be staff changes, and Heritage is quite important because uh a lot of its funding comes from individuals, and it was very influential and in being a conservative think tank that is populist, and there aren't many. A lot of the conservative think tanks are not friendly to Trump
Mhm.
or populism, and so you're seeing the splintering and fragmentation happening that uh, is important for a lot of people because we're only like less than a year, 9 months into the Trump administration. There's over 3 years left before the next presidential, and their midterms coming up in a little over
Yeah,
a year that'll
yeah.
decide the House and the Senate.
Base.
Yeah,
Mm.
and and potentially redistricting fights. So there are if people like Bannon are saying uh, we're running out of time to fix this, um, and you have situations where uh, things that you'd think would have been resolved, like for example the ballots in the Georgia election, presidential election that were in question, are sitting there in a warehouse, and the new Department of Justice hasn't gone in to get them to
Yeah.
verify them. And there are people going, I thought this was Trump's Department of Justice. And I thought that they were going to go after election integrity things.
Mm.
Why isn't there a move on this?
Overpromised.
Yeah, or just or some I don't like I don't know. I mean I just don't know. So there's it's hard to underestimate the 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 concern and splintering, and on the and on and the Democratic Party as well. They're responsible for the shutdown, and the shutdown is not playing well for them.
In the
And
long term, it won't. Even in the medium term, it won't. The short
it's
term shutdown, they would have won it. But the
they're
minute
not
is now, now
they're
it's
not
not.
they lost the narrative war.
They're
Even
making Trump even more powerful. These morons don't realize that. But yeah,
but
I can't expect anything else from them. They're stupid.
well, this is I mean, it's just all it's fragmenting, and this is very it's like this. It's the Chinese. I'm not saying this is all a Chinese plan, although parts of it
Mhm.
definitely have been bad, and you can see the Twitter algorithm is changing again.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but it's this disintegration warfare stuff. So the left doesn't know it. Schumer and Pelosi are I they've been, like, the big beasts of the Democratic Party along with some others for a long time, and we'll see now whether the Democratic Party is gonna be, AOC and Mamdani, and this
Mm.
is so it's not the every but it's just it's all happening very fast,
That's
and it's
chickens for KFC. I'm so sorry. That's seriously chickens for KFC. They you People have no idea what kind of Islamism will come into America because of that.
there was a they just disrupted, an attack in, a an attempted attack in Dearborn, Michigan
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Halloween, right? So there's, so in all of that, right? In all of
Yeah.
that, where's India?
No,
Right?
no, no. That I understand. I That's why I'm saying, the whole China move that Trump has made, that comes back to my first question, and where you answered is just a timeout. There's nothing else because there's just so much happening, and that's the same with China as well, right? Xi Jinping has issues. 9 generals thrown out is not something that you do to a normal army.
Yeah.
You know,
It comes back
nine.
to it comes back to what you've said, which is the rare earths thing seemed like that was too early. It seemed like they pulled that card a little bit too early.
That was the
So
stupidest move ever.
yeah, something's going on. But what I'd like to talk about, if you don't, if it's okay, because it is the death of Daniel Soudani. Is that? Can we
Hmm.
talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, because this shows a little bit what's going on in the rest of the world. Um, so Daniel Soudani was the premier of Malaita province in the Solomon Islands before. So Solomon switched from Taiwan to China in 2019,
19.
and yeah, 2019, and and a few weeks later, the country of Kiribati, also in the Pacific, switched as well. And he, at the time, was the premier of Malaita province, and he and his government and the traditional chiefs issued this Auki communique. Auki is the name of the capital, AUKI, which called for a moratorium on any CCP-linked businesses operating in the province. And, they were concerned because they had seen Chinese businesses, CCP-linked businesses, raping their people and their land in other provinces. There's a lot of logging there, and they didn't they wanted to protect their people. They also believed in freedom of religion, and the Chinese were systemically atheist and suppressing people of faith within China. Like, it was all of the things that most think tanks in DC, especially in 2019, were too scared to say out loud. They said out loud about what was wrong with the Chinese Communist Party. And the result was that, for example, while in the rest of the country, the Huawei towers started going up, they couldn't go up in Malaita because Daniel Soudani and his government were protecting them. And then he got sick in like 21, and he needed an MRI. There was no MRI machine in the country. And the government, central government, pro Chinese central government said, we'll pay for your treatment outside the country, but you need to let in the Chinese. And he said no. Right? So this is a man who literally would rather die than sell it to the Chinese. And what happened was, and this is on the record, was MD Nalapat, Professor Nalapat, heard about it and got in touch with the office of the president of Taiwan at the time, President Tsai. And President Tsai personally intervened and brought him and his his advisor, who's always culturally like, sort of very supportive of him, to Taiwan for medical care. He got his medical care, and then he went back to Solomon's. The story is much longer than this, but um, the bottom line is, while he was away, they bribed part of his legislature. They got him out as premier. They took away his seat, elected seat, for not recognizing the One China policy. Um, Lawfare after lawfare, and that ruling was overturned. But in the meantime, they tried to demoralize him, bankrupt him, isolate him, and
The regular
also
stuff.
the regular stuff through lawfare. And then just a couple weeks ago, He was suffering kidney failure, and he went into hospital, and the only dialysis machine in all of the Solomon Islands was donated by the Chinese and is operated by a Chinese doctor, and the Chinese doctor decides who gets treatment, and he died. Now, the
Where is
reason
the US in all this?
no, well, the reason I'm bringing up this story is because Prime Minister Modi, when he went to Papua New Guinea in 2023, announced dialysis machines for all the countries in the
Yeah,
Pacific. And Indian dialysis, I can't it's unclear whether it's 1 or 2, but at least one dialysis machine was delivered to the Solomon Islands at the beginning of the year.
yeah.
And,
17 have already been delivered.
sorry?
17 have already been delivered in the region.
Yeah, and they've and elsewhere, they're in operation. In Solomon Islands, it was not put into operation. And from what I understand from the Indian side, they because for it to go into operation, they need to provide the training. And they've offered the training, and the Solomon Islands government side has not picked up on the offer. And the doctors in the hospital they didn't know that there was training on offer. And so the question is, you know, was there a deliberate blocking of the setting up of the Indian machines because it's a threat to the control by the Chinese of the choke point to the healthcare system?
That's heartbreaking.
I can't I Daniel Sudani was one of the best men I've ever known.
No, I mean, as a person, fantastic, great. It's just a human being who lost his life because of stupid politics. I'm just
I
going to take it like that. But the point is,
I
where is
can't
the US now?
I can't because
Yeah, yeah, of course. I'm sure you
yeah,
know him personally, and
yeah.
uh,
But also I know how important he was to his people and to the region. And so that's why it's death by political warfare. So when they talk about political warfare, it's not bloodless. And you're right to have to your instinctive emotion of how sad it is, it is just dead on. Like, this is just it's so evil. Like, it's just
mhm,
evil.
mhm.
And they got him. They killed him. I mean, they didn't kill him. He could have, if we'd known earlier, maybe gone somewhere else for healthcare.
Yeah,
Like, there
well,
could have been
they would
what
have they would have found another way. So
well, they'd been
that's
tr they and he was, heading into trial. I mean, there was a verdict due in his case the day after he died, and Celsus Talafilu, who was on trial with him, that case is still pending against his colleague, who is also ill. I mean, he's like they're hounding people. And where are the Americans? The Australians tell the Americans we got it under control.
America's here or
Y
whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the Americans they don't have an ambassador there, but the Australians keep saying, "We got under control, we know what's going on," all that stuff. It was
For me,
did you see the exchange between, Trump and President Trump and Rudd, Ambassador Rudd?
what used to happen in geopolitics behind closed doors today happens in front. That's the only way.
It was like, Rudd killed the Quad the first time around,
Yeah,
and there he is, he's still there.
and he's killing
Yeah,
it again.
and Albanese spends Prime Minister Albanese spent 6 days in China trying to, normalize his trade relations, and they're the guys that are gonna protect Daniel Sudani from being in a position where a Chinese doctor gets to decide whether he lives or dies.
No, I mean, to my mind, at the moment, Quad seems like a dead duck.
Yeah, I don't know whether I mean, I hope that there's still one thing that Quad was useful for was creating the umbrella under which the bilateral relations and the trilateral relations could bloom,
Yeah,
you know?
India got through to the Pacific Island nations through Quad itself.
Yeah, and the India-Japan, which was already strong, could build up more, and some now you see some Japan and Australia for what it's worth. It has it's better that it's there than it's not, but it's certainly not what it could be.
For me, I
Um,
think it's going to be more of AUKUS because of the deal yesterday of South Koreans building up nuclear submarines and stuff like that for America
mhm,
and for themselves, of course. So I think it's going to be more towards the eastern side of the Indo-Pacific with AUKUS
mhm,
and JOKUS or POCUS. I don't know what. So many names nowadays. But let's come back to the rare earths, and that's
mhm,
very interesting to me because you have a situation where Trump is going after resource filled areas, and we see a real politic being played in Myanmar,
mhm,
China's biggest supplier. Pakistan, we see the same thing, mining and this and that and all that nonsense.
mhm,
Africa,
mhm,
again, China's biggest supplier. In South America,
mhm,
60% of the global lithium in that lithium triangle, um,
mhm,
between Bolivia, what do you call, Argentina, and so
mhm,
on and so forth, Peru, and stuff like that. When you look at this and you look at the politic that the Americans are playing today, um, Trump has his meetings with Central Asian countries. So there's the that Trump uh, corridor from Turkey into Armenia into Azerbaijan, crossing the Caspian.
mhm.
I don't know what's planned for the C5. Of course, from here, Pakistan is ever ready to do stupid things and sell itself out. That's fine. South America, we see the same pressure coming in on Venezuela,
Mhm,
Colombia, and now we see Nigeria.
mhm.
And when we look at the common factors in all this stuff, it's rare earths and oil.
Yeah, I think the Nigeria situation is different. There's a lot of there's
There's a lot of Boko Haram. There's no
yeah,
question about it.
and there's a lot of internal pressure,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, uh, f from people in the US to do something about this.
No,
Yeah,
that's absolutely fine.
yeah,
There's nothing wrong. I'm not
yeah,
saying that I'm not going to go into the religiosity of it.
yeah,
But when you look at the real politic of the situation,
yeah,
if
yeah,
you go into the religiosity of it, then I think something needs to be done in Syria.
yeah, well, there's that
Not
and Sudan, and I mean, it's just the whole thing
Yeah.
is yeah,
So, it's
but
more politics. I'm sorry, but I'm going to be a little harsh.
mhm.
I don't think anybody cares two hoots about Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims, or anybody else.
Well, I think
Within the real
uh,
politic of the game is because of there's noise, so people are, "Oh, okay, Christians are getting persecuted, we're going to go."
yeah,
Otherwise,
I think there've been a lot just for information. There have been a lot of groups within the US that have been trying to raise awareness about the Christian situation in Nigeria for a long time.
Nigeria,
And
then
yeah,
Syria, the same guy that Trump met, he ordered the
yeah,
killings of so many Christians. Nobody
yeah.
said about it.
There yeah, yeah.
What's happening in
I'm just explaining
Yeah, what's happening in Lebanon today?
yeah,
Lebanese Christians. I mean, there's a sustained takeover. Lebanon was more or less a Christian country.
yeah,
It's not anymore.
yeah, yeah.
What's happening in UK?
Well, I know.
You
Did
know,
did you
it-
did you see those members of the city council running for election in Bangladesh?
yep.
Yeah.
What I mean, forget that. This is a dirty brown country.
Oh.
You know
So,
what's
but
happening in UK. So
yeah.
it's to me, it's to do with the resources, of course, and of course there's a lot of pressure from inside. Nigeria is one of the most important countries in Africa.
Mhm,
It's the loudest country in Africa. It's one of the most powerful countries in Africa. There's no
mhm,
question. And Nigeria geography is unique because it sits, the entire
mhm,
troubled region of Africa.
mhm.
So yeah, I can understand that. But what do you think the politic is about rare earths? That's something that I want to discuss. Is Trump trying to cut Chinese supply lines?
Yeah. Well, uh, I think he's trying to ensure US supply lines and production. So it's not just getting it, it's the refining. So, I think that message has finally gotten through. I mean, this is not a new thing. Remember, Japan was cut off years ago, and that was their flags were raised then, and so. But I think there are different tools that are going to be used now. So, um, yeah, I think it's definitely about securing U.S. industry and making sure that that it can, and also um, military supplies.
Mm.
So yeah, that's definitely a part of it. But if you, I don't know if you feel like it, but I'd be interested to know from a, just from a Indian perspective, because I think in Indian, call it soft power, whatever you want to call it, but India's can really give China a run for its money, like with on the dialysis machine situation,
Yeah,
and and uh, and what how do you think that happened, where they were um those machines were just nobody followed up, or they just didn't, because there's no Indian ambassador in Solomons. The
no.
ambassador is sitting in Port Moresby, and they tried, we've written about it in the Sunday Guardian, they tried to block his entry into the country even initially. So, and India has been very good at handling this sort of thing in the Indian Ocean island countries. And so, and I've seen some very good MEA diplomacy in Pacific Island countries, but it seems like it's still,
It just started in 2021.
yeah,
Before that, there was nothing. There
yeah.
was zero. So it's going to take time. I mean, see, look at the distance. And of course, let me just say this. Uh, as far as all this is concerned, there are so many places efforts are blocked by just the Americans itself.
They're not here. I mean, it could
I mean,
be not
I'm not saying
facilitated by,
not
yeah, yeah,
saying here, but
yeah,
interests of the West, interest groups of the West who won't
right,
want their own kind of sphere of influence being poked
right,
into. And I
right.
won't take Australia out of the equation in that
Oh,
aspect.
yeah, no, no,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, I'd be very interested to know why it
Australia and
wasn't
New
followed up
Zealand,
on
I
that.
will not take them out of the equation at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
At all. Because I've seen that before. They were the kind of when Prime Minister Modi visited the Pacific Island countries, and we're the first country in the world to call them Pacific Island, countries, and we put a specific term to it, where the ocean around, as Prime Minister described
Oh,
it,
yeah.
is also part of the country. The countries are really large. And
Yeah,
that's what he kind of,
yeah, that was originally coined by a Tongan, right? The big
yeah,
ocean countries, not
big
small
ocean
island
countries or
states. Yeah,
something. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
something like that. He
yeah,
he called them that. So
yeah.
I saw the kind of rhetoric which came out of Australia and New Zealand was not funny.
Mhm,
The leftists in Australia literally lost it. Absolutely lost it. And that was the time when, if you remember, Adani was supposed to take over a coal mine in Australia at that time. And the Tim Brown Foundation was George Brown or Brown something, who was a miner. He opened up these websites called AdaniWatch.org. Soros jumped in. And the kind of rhetoric that was pushed out from there, it's not funny. They went all out to
mhm,
put out the fact that India is intruding within Australia's national sphere of influence.
mhm. Yeah, I remember there was a stage when Indian students were getting attacked
Yeah,
in Australia. Yeah,
it's all calmed down because
yeah.
the kind of rhetoric that those guys were pulling out at that time is not funny.
Mhm,
And then a lot of nonsense happened, and then things calmed down later on and stuff. Uh, but at the time when Prime Minister Modi visited that region, it was not friendly at all.
mhm.
The rhetoric was not friendly at all. So
Yeah.
it's going to take time. If there's anything from India, it's going to take some time because honestly, I don't think the Chinese would, yeah, Chinese would do what they're doing there. But I don't think we are going to get a clean slate from anybody else as well.
Mhm. Yeah, but that has to change. And
People
that's
don't like it. Let me assure you this. People just
mhm,
don't like. I'll give you an example. So our outreach into Mozambique in 2006, 7, right? Mozambique and the East African nations. We had a good outreach with them. We talked about an India Africa corridor and this and that. And 2008 onwards, suddenly Islamism just pops up there.
mhm,
And all the endeavors that were signed at that time still remain. Now they have, in the past 2 years, they've started moving.
mhm,
The pipeline to the coast and a whole lot of stuff.
mhm.
Otherwise, there was just Islamism there.
Right.
Suddenly it just came up.
Hey,
There are
I read there was something with one of the Chagos Islands recently. India's might be looking at.
no, we are looking at not looking at. We signed an agreement to have a satellite receiving station there,
Oh, okay.
and then you know what happens. So that's how it is. But no, see
What happened? I don't know what happened.
what will happen after that. Obviously, when you come into a place, you will develop, you will go inside, you will
Yeah.
do other things and this and that. So that's
Right,
how it
right.
goes.
Yeah.
It is a strategic competition. There's no question about it. In that, now look at it. Now we say we want to. It's in our sphere of influence, right there. The country is predominantly Indians by origin. Um, Let us deal with it. No, Brits need to come in. Americans need to come in. You're sitting there, but let us do what we're doing. So finally, they agree to it, and you find even the Brits thanking India, the Mauritians thanking India, and even the Americans acknowledged India. Oh yeah, India played a good role in this whole thing. But now the fight is going to be with for that renewal.
Hmm.
So this is see that's the whole thing. That's where the mistrust comes into place. That yeah, when you want something, you say, oh, ally, best friend, Indo-Pacific strategy bases on India and this and that. Now, when India spreads its wings and says we want our interests to be secure and these is no, 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 you can't do this. No, you can't. Oh, no, 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 this won't be acceptable. How is it supposed to go forward? And it's the same thing with Australia, by the way. What happened to the nuclear submarines? The Americans are telling the Australians, oh, forget that. Just make the port. We'll put our submarines there.
Yeah, I think it's going to, as far as I know, it's supposed to still go ahead. That's a different issue, though. I don't think. Yeah, just because. I mean, the timeline for it is so long that
220.
yeah.
I mean, it's a wonder they're actually waiting for that long because if China needs to do something, he will do it now
It was
in
good
the
to
next
see.
5 years.
Well, that's it. It was good to see that they're looking at some of the Japanese gear, at least in the interim. But
Mhm.
anyway.
Let me come to another point. When you look
Mhm,
at Trump himself and uh, he wants to play the great power sort of a role. He wants a Yalta with Putin, Xi, and probably some other people. He wants to, you know, have
mhm,
that sort of a reset, if I may. Considering the impulse-driven tactic that the Americans have employed till now, it's basically impulse. I don't know how much of back-ending work went through the China this thing, but at the end of it, when we looked at the American interaction with Putin, I don't think any sort of back end went into it. It was just meet, for 6 hour meeting, came down to 3 hours, and everybody walked away. No, nothing. What do you think is this whole impulse driven thing? And aren't Americans today, or look at what happened with Canada, and that's something which is very funny to me. That Ronald Reagan thing. Oh,
mhm,
trade talks are this thing, and now yesterday Mark Carney says I've apologized to Trump, and we're going to move forward.
mhm.
Now this is impulse. This is not policy.
I don't know. Um, I don't know because I really don't know. There's something, and again, I'm things are moving, and um, there's some very smart people involved in the administration,
Mhm,
and uh, there are some things that have happened that were so successful they've kind of been forgotten, like like the dismantling of USAID, you know, which caused a lot of problems in your neighborhood, for example. And that's an enormous thing.
mhm.
Very, very difficult to underestimate. Or the closing down of the US Institute of Peace. I mean, it's, there's so y- and it's not there's just so many big things that have happened. The entire whether you like it or not, the whole changing of the profile of the U.S. military to a point where they went from not being able to meet recruiting targets to being oversubscribed for recruiting. Yeah, to just the sort of the what again, whether you whatever you think about it, the whole um, you know promotion based on merit and like it's just there are a lot of things happening,
Hmm.
and it's not that's not being waffled on. That's very unidirectional, and it's not impulsive. Like it and the or look at the I mean, goodness. President Trump stood next to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and said, "Don't take Tylenol if you're pregnant."
That was big. That was big. There's no question. And the dismantling of all this stuff is great. But he also promised no regime changes, right?
Yeah,
He said we won't do that.
yeah,
Tulsi Gabbard came out and gave a statement yesterday that,
yeah.
we've been wasting our time doing all this stuff.
I
Now, all of them talk about regime change in Iran. All of them talk about a regime change in Venezuela. They did a regime change in Nepal, by the way.
Trump has been pretty consistent about no regime change in Iran.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not I'm not being defensive, and
No, no, no. This
I'm
is
just putting more information or, on the table, to because that's why I mean, it sounds like I'm vacillating, but there are so many data points that are often conflicting that it's difficult to make a for me to make a strong statement one way or another.
yeah,
And my personality is that if somebody says something, I'm going to try to counter it in my head to see whether or not I think it's, the whether I agree with it or not. And not in a negative way, just like that's the way my brain works. If somebody says, it's a sunny day, then I'm going to look and try to find clouds in the sky, right? And just to make sure I agree that it's a sunny day. Um that's my own fault, my own personal flaw. But so that's why I'm responding to this like this, because I I really things will happen and I'll go, "That was huge." I mean, that thing about Tylenol, I've never seen a president willing to go up against the big drug companies like that. And I think there's gonna be more coming out. He gave RFK free rent. They've banned or blocked or whatever it is, all sorts of artificial dyes. The food supply is changing in the US because of this administration. Uh, but, then there are other kinda crazy stuff that, does not seem helpful, but I don't know what it means. So, sorry. I'm a bad
no,
pundit.
for me, when we look at, I like what he said about all these things, and but when we look at Nepal,
Mhm.
International Republican Institute, the same guys who did Bangladesh
Yeah.
were involved.
So the other thing is
You're
they've
like, yeah,
changed they've changed, there are whatever it is, I don't know, however many hundreds of thousands or million of people working for the US government, and they changed a few thousand of them,
yeah.
and you see the FBI doesn't have control over the FBI now. So, and they do things like they'll fire whole sections, and then they'll have to rehire a few of them back because they don't know who is essential or who isn't essential. And again, it's been 9 months, and on the Israel thing, I don't you know I don't know where how it's going to turn out, but there are 20 hostages who are alive and who are home with their families. That I know.
I'm honestly
That
that, uh, of course, what's going to happen in the future apart, that was good. There's no question about it. And getting those people back alive is a big thing. Um, One also noted the fact that there was no other way. I mean, you had to do this. Probably could have been done 6 months earlier, so that probably three, four more people would have been alive. I don't know. It's a gamble, you can say that, but that was really good. There's no question about it, and everybody appreciated that. Even I did. Yeah, thank God. Because one can only imagine what happened to those families looking at the pictures of their people. It's crazy. But here is where uh, I find the contradiction. There are two bodies of Americans which have still not been released,
I,
and
yeah.
this would have never happened in America. I know
So
for a fact because the
s-
way Americans used to react to these things was extreme.
so I'm
Yeah.
well, yeah. So I'm currently on the 10th of November. It'll be the 250th anniversary of the Marine Corps,
Yeah.
and um, uh, and there are still uh, thousands of bodies of American service members that haven't been brought home. And I know there's a one organization called History Flight, and you can look it up. It's
Yeah, I've seen that.
historyflight.com.
I've
Yeah,
seen that.
yeah,
I've seen that. Yeah.
yeah. And the founder, Mark Noah, is an amazing guy, and he started in part because he went to Tarawa, and which is was one of the sort of major battles for the U.S. Marines, now in a country called Kiribati. And they would do construction and just dig up bones and dump them by the side of the road, and it's just incredibly painful. And it's just something that the US government should have done but didn't. And so he started the I mean, they have a part of the US government that is supposed to do it, but they are, to let's say, not efficient. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And so he 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 put together this charity, this NGO, to do it. And um at the same time the Solomon Islands switched from Taiwan to China in 2019, Kiribati switched. And I think likely through Chinese influence,
They
History
stopped.
Flight has been they have their work permits have been revoked. And they were working with locals in Kiribati. They had them on this, they did it the right way. They made sure that the local communities were involved and compensated and valued. And now they can't go in. And you've got Chinese construction companies digging up, to put in whatever it is, a road or a bridge, hitting the bodies of Marines who died there in 1942 and 3, I guess it was, and just dumping them, dumping these bones of these boys who should be home. And and that was a failure, a bureaucratic failure by the US government that was picked up. The burden was picked up by Americans. He wasn't a Marine. He's a Mark Noah. He became an honorary Marine. There's only about 100 of them ever made. And Sergeant Major Justin LeHue, who fought at Nasiriyah, very highly decorated Marine, um, is currently at this very moment walking um, he's walking 250 miles to end up at Quantico on the 250th anniversary of the Marine Corps to try to raise enough money to bring home 250 more American service members in time for the 250th anniversary of the founding of America. They've so they've the government didn't do it, but these Americans are doing it. So when you say Americans wouldn't bring them,
Yeah, well,
they failed. So, but Americans themselves, are often very supportive. If you've been in the US, then at all the federal buildings, they have two flags. They have the American flag, and underneath it, they have the black and white prisoner of war flag, POW missing flag. Um, um, and that's everywhere, but it's not understood what that means by many Americans. But by others, it is, and they're trying to bring them back home. But
hold on.
again, just like in
Yeah.
the Solomon Islands, the Chinese are actively trying to disrupt
Mm,
that effort.
mm.
And it serves their purpose. They can say, "Look, the Americans don't care about their soldiers. They just leave them there in the sand, and they don't come get them." So
For 60 years,
80, over 80.
80 years. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, the government still isn't. It's these guys. And anyway, sorry,
No, I mean,
on a tangent.
see, one. You get a lot of insight into stuff like this, and it's always, as I always say, it's lovely to talk to you because it's always a conversation, and we kind of go from one place to the other to
Yeah,
figure out what's really
yeah.
behind things.
And the last the topic we didn't cover, but which I do feel like needs to be shouted out is the 150th birthday of Sardar Patel.
The man who united India, the one place he didn't touch was Kashmir, and look where it is. Well, there's a lot of politics about it. Everybody's trying to own him, but I think he belongs to the country. He belongs to this nation. And I think Prime Minister Modi is the only one. When he built up that Statue of Unity, right?
Mhm,
Uh, everybody cribbed. Why do you need statues? We're a poor country. We're this, we're that. Statues paid for itself three times over.
mm,
Forget the cost of it. But impact, massive,
mhm.
massive. I wish he stayed on for probably 3 more years or 5 more years. Things would have been much more different. He was supposed to be the first Prime Minister of India.
And that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, well, we've been cheated all through our independent histories. Probably now, I mean, we are beginning to realize what the hell is happening around us.
Mhm,
Uh, Brainwashing is not an art; it's a science, and that was experimented very clearly here. Today, when we ask questions, we are called, I don't know what all. Uh, but when you look at the reality, which is now actually acknowledged by most of the people in the country, and you're like, my God, what did we not know about ourselves? It's what it is. And in the middle of this, you have Mr. Trump trying to challenge the nationalism of this country, which is kind of, that's why we laugh, like, okay, what's wrong with this guy? This is not the time to do this with India. Not because India is a great power or anything like that, because it's a country on the upswing of civilization, right? It's realizing who it is. And at that time, you challenge it. Oh, you'll not be able to do it because with any country, not just India, with any country that is national, these morons have, there was a huge opposition to the government of Iran within Iran. But
mhm,
by bombing Iran, you brought the Iranians together and said, we don't like these guys.
mhm,
That's fine. They're ours. We don't like them more. So now you've got a united Iran, which is not having protests, which is wanting to fight. And as a matter of fact, let me tell you, the government is releasing, oh, women don't need to wear their headscarves anymore. People are dancing on the streets.
mhm,
So you don't do that to a nationalist sort of a place. And that's something which is becoming pretty evident within the politic of India, and as well as the real, the geopolitic of India as well. It's interesting. I have a lot of fun because I loved the fact that a lot of people are actually saying Xi Jinping is not as tall as Trump. What the hell did he
I need to get shoes like that.
do?
Like,
That's I mean, you know, you're supposed to be the second most important power in the world. You're wearing high shoes. Oh God, I don't care if you're 1 foot tall, you jackass. But yeah, that's how it is, right?
mm,
Anyways, Cleo, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you on the platform.
always good to catch up. Thank you.
Good fun. And we shall catch up the next time. Guys, please like, subscribe, and of course, leave your comments as
Done.
to what's going to happen. And please follow her. She's been talking to Steve Bannon and many other people um, about what's happening in America, about China. There's a huge fight in America. Huh? It's not as peaceful as the discussion that we've had. There's a huge fight. There are people who are very upset with Trump actually shaking hands with China. And it's not politics wise. There are a lot of people who are upset because they've lost their jobs, they've lost their families, factories, they've lost their enterprises to China. So people are upset about it, but there are also the other side which love what is happening. So yeah, let us know what you guys think. Namaskar.